Good afternoon. I'm Dennis Galucki. Welcome to the 568th Imagine Buffalo program and our 189th YouTube production hosted by our wonderful downtown Buffalo and Erie County Public Library System. Thanks for joining us today. This program is created by the Center for the Study of Art, Architecture, History, and Nature, or as I pronounce the acronym, C-SAAHN, and ImagineLifelongLearning.com. Now, before we get started, just a little housekeeping. Everyone watching will be muted and your video turned off. If you have a question or a comment, please type it into the chat box and we'll go through them at the end of the presentation as time allows. We are recording this program so you can watch it again later on the Downtown Central Library's Facebook page and YouTube channels. And please, we certainly hope you share the link with others. Now, on to our featured speaker. Joining us today during Women's History Month 2025 is Dr. Karen King, the Executive Director of the Erie County Commission on the Status of Women and the Commissioner of Erie County Public Advocacy. The Commission on the Status of Women works to provide resources to the women and girls of Erie County to ensure that they participate fully in matters that have an impact on their lives and toward the elimination of gender-based discrimination and the promotion of women's economic, societal, and political empowerment. Karen previously served as an adjunct graduate faculty member in the Higher Education and Student Affairs Administration program at Buffalo State and in University at Buffalo's Graduate School of Education. She has developed and taught courses and conducted workshops on popular media culture, social justice advocacy, multicultural competency, privilege, gender, race, and class. Her research interests include examining the roles that gender, race, class, and popular culture play in informing women's and girls' identity development and access to opportunity. Karen serves on the New York State Council for Women and Girls, the board of the Family Justice Center, the executive committee of the University at Buffalo Gender Institute, the Minority and Women Business Enterprise Utilization Advisory Board, and the Erie County and City of Buffalo Joint Certification Committee. So let's welcome longtime friend of the Buffalo and Erie County Public Library, Karen King. Karen, take it away.
Thank you, Dennis, and thank you for inviting me to share some time with you. And yes, the library is a wonderful collaborative partner, and we've worked together on several initiatives, including the Trailblazing Women Monument Project, which I'm going to be talking about today. Yes, it is Women's History Month, and of course, we know women are always contributing to our communities 24/7, 365, not just March, but it's nice that we have a month to remind everybody that we're here. Good. So I am going to, I have prepared some slides to talk a little bit about the project. So I hope I do this correctly. There we go. So the Trailblazing Women Monument Project of Western New York is a collaborative project which the library is involved in, and several community entities, including the University of Buffalo and the History Museum, the Buffalo History Museum. The project started, hold on, I'm trying to advance the slide here. Not sure what's going on in terms of the sharing. Let's see, I apologize. I had it up and now it's gone. Here we go. There we go. Sorry about that, folks. So the purpose of the project was obviously to celebrate women. We identified several trailblazing women. We worked collaboratively, as I mentioned, with several community partners, and we focused on 3 women that we would memorialize with bronze statues and place them. Originally, it was going to be in front of the library, but after some exploring, it didn't make sense for structural reasons, and we settled on Old County Hall, which is directly across from the RAP building at 92 Franklin Street, where they are currently placed. They were officially placed last year, and we had a beautiful ceremony in August. But we worked diligently with the county executive and the Erie County Legislature, who were really responsible for securing the majority of the funding for the project, as well as the Seneca Gaming Corporation and the Baird Foundation, and then individual donors over the last several years. The process was lengthy, and we did get a little stalled during COVID. Obviously, we were attending to the more pressing needs of our community during COVID, but once we pivoted back into more normal times, we reinvigorated the process to secure funding, identify artists, secure the location, and create a timeline as to when these
Karen, I'm sorry
sketches would be completed.
Karen, I'm sorry to interrupt. We're not seeing your slides.
No?
No.
Huh. Not sure why. Let me go get my assistant to find out why they're not being shared. Jennifer, can you come here, help me? Not sure why. Let's see. Can you see it now?
The monument project we're seeing.
Okay. And you already covered this.
There you go. There's an overview.
All right. Everyone can see?
Yes, I think we're set.
Thank you. All right. So then to advance, did I just do this? Yeah. Yeah. And the next one should be, I would leave that because that'll be the pictures. So as I mentioned, we were engaged in a lengthy education, community outreach, and fundraising project to create awareness about the 3 women we selected: Mary Talbert, Geraldine Sittag Green, and Louise Bethune. We had a committee of folks from across the community with a range of experience. Some came from the museum background and had experience with public art and curation. Others were community activists. Obviously, we had scholars and people with background in creating public art spaces as well as architecture. So it was really a community effort in terms of making sure there were representative voices at the table to forward this project. I don't know if any of you have worked on a public art project, but it certainly can be challenging. We ended up hiring 2 artists to create 3 statues. Securing the space in front of Old County Hall, that process was somewhat streamlined because it was county property. So when you are creating public art, access to the space is pretty integral to the project. And then once we selected the artist through a rigorous request for proposal process, we had an advisory committee that consisted of folks from the Albright Knox and from Buffalo State and from other areas of public art that have done this work before to help us zero in on the artist. And we ended up working with Jiwon Che and Vinnie Bagwell, who have had extensive experience in creating public art projects. And this, you can see, these are photos of the maquette, which is the smaller version of the statue. Our artist creates a maquette to give everyone a sense of what the finished product will look like. And this was the space, and this was breaking ground, and we were excited because one of our construction workers was a woman. So we were really excited that she was involved in the breaking ground process. We also had Joy Keebler, who was our landscape architect and designer, and you just saw a picture of her wearing a hard hat. So this is the space in front of Old County Hall, and this is what the statues, that's Louise Bethune, the famous architect who designed the Lafayette Hotel. And to her the left, you'll see Mary Talbert, who is a very renowned human rights and civil rights activist and was instrumental in creating the forerunner to the NAACP. And she and her husband were very active in the Michigan Street Corridor and hosted the intellectuals and folks that were involved in human rights and civil rights at the turn of the century here in Western New York. And then Geraldine Sittah Green, you'll see Geraldine there in the center, is part of the Seneca Nation and was instrumental in preserving the language and custom, and a teacher and a very revered member of the Seneca Nation. This is a photo showing the celebration of the unveiling, the formal unveiling of the 3 statues in August of last year. You see a nice shot with the county executive, the deputy county executive, and now our New York State Senator, April Baskin, as well as many members of the steering committee and the Seneca Nation and folks that were involved in the project. In addition to the actual placement of the bronze statues, we also created a narrative project, which you can listen to on our website, our Trailblazing Women website. And what we did was create a first-person account. The narrator is telling the story of how they came to be and the importance of the work that they've done, and how they ended up living in Western New York. And they're about 3-minute segments, so you can learn a little bit about each of the women that were highlighted if you go to the website. And then, of course, we are very focused on this being an educational opportunity, not just exclusively for girls, but certainly for girls and boys too, and the whole community. We think of the monument project, the actual placement of the statues, as our outdoor history museum for women. What we plan to do moving forward, in addition to the narrative project, we also have a Living Trailblazing Women project, which I'll talk about in a second. But we also want to create plaques and place them throughout the region and create an actual trail. So when you want to, if you're coming to Buffalo or Western New York and you're visiting, you can take the trail and learn more about the important role women have played in creating our community. So the Living Trailblazing project is really exciting. So we are honoring women from our community who are still with us. They haven't passed, and you shouldn't have to pass in order to get recognition. They are living trailblazers. They have committed their practice, their profession, their work, their community service to uplifting their communities. And we've recorded their video testimony, and we are curating this collection, and it will become part of a larger exhibit that will also be part of our Living Trailblazing Women. And that will be available on our website and our YouTube channel for public viewing soon. We're going to have a formal launch of all the videos, but we are in the process now of collecting these video testimonies. And you can see here, women like Barbara Steele Nevergold, Kimberly Johnson, your former chair of the Board of Trustees for the library, Lori Quigley, Nancy Aldakwa. These are women who continually contribute to our community and are trailblazers in their own right. So that's the address to the website. We also have a Facebook page, and you can go to the website to hear the video or the narrative trailblazing testimonies and find out more about the project. But in terms of the importance of, why does this project matter? Why is this important? It's important because it's important that we recognize the contributions, of course, everyone, but particularly women, because women have been woefully underrepresented in what we call the public realm. If you were to walk around Buffalo, downtown Buffalo, or the area, Western New York, you'd find, well, now you'll find 3 statues that recognize women. Prior to that, you really didn't have a representation of living women. There's a statue in Forest Lawn that is not representational but interpretive, the spirit of womanhood. But these three statues really mark the first time that real women are represented in what we call representative art form that allows us to learn about their lives and the significance of their contribution. But it also says, as a community, we're invested in telling the stories of women and acknowledging the contributions women have made in terms of forging and contributing in the development of the community. And that's an important message for everyone, but of course, particularly for young girls to see in the public realm, which is what we call the outdoor space, or where people have access to. And that is another important thing, is we wanted these statues to be outside. We wanted them to be approachable. We wanted people to be able to walk up to them and look at them. We also have signage at the Old County Hall site that gives you more information about each of the three women, as well as there's a barcode that you can scan, and it'll direct you to the website where you can get more information. And I think it's significant that we continue to unearth the history of women. Women's stories have not been documented historically like men's. So when someone is trying to conduct research and gather historical documents, it's been very challenging to find these because they haven't been archived. But there has been a movement over the last, I would say, 10 years to really invest in the archiving and sharing of women's stories. And I know the Smithsonian is now engaged in developing a women's history museum as well in Washington. But I think here at Erie County, we are on the forefront of doing this work, and I hope you will all take advantage of checking out the statues. They look particularly magnificent at night. They're lit and they look very dramatic, but it's a beautiful space. And as I mentioned, Joy Keebler, who was our architect, our landscape architect, designed a beautiful outdoor space. There's lovely benches there. You can go, you can sit, you can read about the women, you can just be in that space. So I hope you'll all take advantage of that. And I think, Dennis, that is, I'm looking at the time, that's it. That's the presentation. So I'm happy to answer questions.
Well, the library, if you could, they're not letting me get on the video here, but we'll start. How long a process was that? And were all those people in that picture part of, how it almost gets unwieldy with a committee? Did you have a lot of people or a handful that selected the three women to make a statue, and then all that process work that makes you, have an idea and then actually complete it? Because I've spent time, and it's a beautiful location and well-done project, as you say, that you finished and honored in August. What was that process like? How long, how many, how much money did you have to work with for each statue? And will you hope to expand it, or is that it? The three of them are going to be your public art, and then everything else is online. There's a lot of questions in there, but you see where I'm after. I'm a process kind of guy. I'm curious.
Well, the process or the journey was long and certainly at times challenging, in particular because we experienced a global pandemic in the middle of this journey. But we did have a core group of members of our steering committee that were instrumental in sorting through the many requests we got from people. We put that out to the community. And what was really important, Dennis, was that the three women were representative of the community.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe some folks know who Louise Bethune is because of the Lafayette Hotel, maybe not. Maybe some folks know who Mary Talbert is because of the nature of the work they do. And same with Geraldine Sittag Green. It was very important that, first and foremost, that we recognize Native women, because we're the statues are placed on, native land, and that we also recognized women that had done a substantial body of work. I mean, Mary Talbert is very renowned for her work in human rights and anti-lynching legislation, but may not have the widespread notoriety that some other women from the region might have received, in the past. And certainly we have a tendency when we're talking about women's history to acknowledge, people like Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony, which, is fine. And that's great. And they certainly played a significant role. But a lot of women are involved in the formation of community, right? And Western New York community is no different. So the process was important, that we were listening to what community members had to say about that. And then once we narrowed it down to the 3 women, yes, the process of selecting, putting out a request for proposal and selecting artists to do the work. And then, pivoting into the logistics of creating public art and identifying a public space, and all the logistics and planning that go into that it's a very involved process. And luckily for the Commission on the Status of Women, our county executive, Mark Polenkar, is very invested in, of course, public art, but in particular, highlighting the contributions of women. So he was very enthusiastic from the get with this project, which certainly makes it a lot easier. And but it's logistically a big deal. You're dealing with 2 artists. You're dealing with the folks that do the actual groundwork of preparing the space. So it was an incredible learning opportunity, I think, for many of us that were involved in it.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was. Well, it was a well done outcome. And that's the bottom line. So Hazen, how are we doing or Melissa, for questions?
All right. Hello. I've got a few here. So let's start with, can Dr. King tell us what the feedback has been from the general public on the statues in front of Old County Hall?
Well, tremendous feedback. And I love when I walk outside and I see folks gathered there. I know that it is a destination on some of the groups that give tours, which is wonderful. And it's just nice, of course, as the warmer weather approaches, you'll see more people congregating, sitting on the benches, reading about the women. So the response has been overwhelmingly positive and enthusiastic.
Thanks so much. I have another question here. This one reads, I love what you said about making sure that the monuments to women are part of public spaces. Where might the Trailblazing Women of Western New York want future monuments to be located, and how do you choose specific sites?
Well, I think Dennis asked me that question. I didn't respond. As it stands currently right now, we don't have plans to place additional bronze statues, but we are going to do a plaque program. And, creating statues is a heavy lift, no pun intended, but it takes a lot of work and it takes a lot of money. Maybe down the line, another statue, perhaps. But right now we're shifting our focus to plaques. And the plaques will be placed in communities where the woman that we're honoring is represented or served in some capacity. Of course, getting access to the space, you have to look at a lot of variables. These plaques are, for the most part, I think we're planning on having them outdoors. So, of course, the durability and the materials used will be part of the discussion, and having access to that particular neighborhood or space will also be a consideration. Can we get access to the space? What are the layers involved in getting access if it's not part of Erie County property? So a lot of layers, but it's happening.
Fantastic. I have one more, and that is, if someone were interested in suggesting an honoree potentially, or otherwise getting involved with what's going on, how should they do so?
They can contact me through my email, or for the commission site has an email, which I think is included in the links there. It looks like you have that. and as well as my email, which is very easy. It's just karen.king@erie.gov.
Thanks so
And-
much.
And also one more thing, not just a suggestion for the statues, but a suggestion for a plaque, and a suggestion for a living trailblazing woman. Would love to get that feedback from folks.
Any others? Hazen, any other questions?
That's it for me.
Okay, you know, we live in a digital age. So what intrigues me the most, statues are hard. I forget the dollar amount. They're very expensive, but I can only imagine how expensive, including installation and the whole bit. But a website that shows interesting people, allows the information to be scrutinized and make sure it's authentic. I had some dealings in helping create a group called Friends of Griffin Mills. And part of the reason was there's a church, one of the oldest in Erie County, that's there, the Presbyterian Church. And Sojourner Truth had spoke there, and it was documented. Because that's what you have to do, is find documentation. You can't have oral stories that are floating around about underground railroads and who might have come and gone. So we got some signage from the Pomeroy Foundation. And
Yeah.
I note, especially to complement your work, the county executive and the groups focusing on history for the next 3 years, virtually, around the canal and America's 250th and women's rights in New York State in 2027. All of those are inviting signage from the Pomeroy to be applied for. So I mention that for what it's worth. The two projects might connect, where you come up with legitimate reasons to have a sign. That foundation wants to have signage, those blue and yellow signs that they create. So that's something to think about. There are many good stories. And my question to you, actually, out of all that statement, are you aware of Sojourner Truth speaking any place else in Erie County? Because I haven't found any actual evidence of that, and I'm kind of curious about that. She's a national figure. The Smithsonian has certainly done a lot of reporting on her, and to have her having spoken here is, I think, an important event to mark. It was October 1st, 1868.
Well, that's a really great question. I don't know of any other time, but that doesn't mean that it didn't happen. And I'm not a historian, but I certainly know, I know many historians now, and we can refer that question to them.
Thank you. Just something to think about, and certainly a woman of note here in Western New York. Karen, thank you. Your commission exists as separate from the county, or if the county so wishes?
Yeah, we're part of county government. The Commission on the Status of Women is part of county government.
So hopefully that stays in future administrations. And
oh yeah, we're in the county charter. We're not going anywhere.
Oh, that's good. That's good. It's not just about coming and going. Then good. Unless you have any other questions, Hazen, we will, in a timely fashion, wrap this program up. Anything else?
Just thank you for your time and giving me the opportunity to share this story, and happy Women's History Month.
Well done. Well done, Karen. Thank you very much for joining us. And we have now this archive story that you can use to help promote yourself as well, your group, and their hard work and good results. Folks, thank you again for joining us today for a very special episode here in this month of March 2025. We hope you'll come back next week when we have a gentleman speaking about the Black Rock Historical Society. It's the president, William Butler. This is a wonderful group that's created a space right on Amherst Street literally across the street from Assumption Parish, and all volunteer effort, like many of our good efforts here in town. So tune in next week, Black Rock Historical Society. Let your friends that are in that area or maybe came from that area be aware of it. William Butler will be our presenter. I'm Dennis Galucki. Be well and good day.